I often ask this before I start and do my opening line. Is there anything you want to get off your chest that we can put on the B-roll for now?
I don't think so. Nothing that it'll all just jump out, I guess.
Okay.
When it
I was trying, I was leaning on you to give me some good stuff, but I guess I'm going to have to be the funny one. So. All right, let's do this. Welcome back to HBS on Desperate Radio. With me today is someone that I'm so excited to talk to, and it's been chasing her for a while, and there she is. Go ahead, tell the people who you are.
Desperate, but let's see. He's been chasing me, but you tell
my name
him
is
who you
Haas,
are.
and everybody knows the boring guy. Nobody cares about me. We're here for you.
I'm Marjean. Marjean Holden. I do lots of different things in the film world. I come from the film world into the personal development world. Been in the entertainment industry for over 35 years. And my very first role, which I don't even know if you know this, Haas, my very first role that I ever spoke on camera was in the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
I've seen this movie quite a few times.
Yeah. So I played one of the students that were giving a speech at the very end when they had to do their big history report on stage. I was the student who was talking about Marie Antoinette. And when she said, let them eat cake, I said, let them eat fast food. So that was my very first role, my breakout into the film industry. And I moved to Hollywood after that to pursue my career. And yeah, and it was just kind of like very consistent from one thing after the other. And then Mortal Kombat Annihilation came around, and the first one was such a huge success. And I got into audition, had 7 auditions for the role of Shiva, and finally landed it. So spent, 2 months in Thailand and almost a month in the UK shooting Mortal Kombat Annihilation as Shiva. And to this day, still the only live actress to play a live rendition of Shiva. Everybody else has been either animation or voiceover or whatever, but I'm still the only live rendition of Shiva in the Mortal Kombat series.
I'm a Gen Xer. I often, joke about being a Gen Xer, but I'll wear the badge very proudly. But I mean, you're speaking to everything is basically the root of the Haas and how I grew up. I mean, Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure. We're talking Mortal Kombat. I got goosebumps just rethinking about how I grew up and everything like that. So,
right, the old time games, the Nintendo. I mean, I'm old enough to remember. Like our first video game was Pong.
Oh, look, there goes the ball. All right, what do you say? Jump right into it. Let's do it. All right. So, I mean, you mentioned Hollywood, and you. Now in a totally different career than when you started off. So let's talk about the Hollywood hustle versus the corporate machine. When did that change come to you?
Well, just to be clear, I never really stepped into corporate. Even though I was in personal development, it wasn't a corporate capacity. It was more individuals and entrepreneurs and, training for a company that was global or is global. And, it's like, but making that transition for me, it happened it was like cut and dry. Like the universe and my system just has a way of working where it's like when the decision is made, where I'm going to make that transition. And it's not like this for everybody. It might be a slow burn for people. I mean, I coach people now on transitioning, through these kind of things, right? Going from one career to a completely different industry that I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about the personal development world, except for the fact that I had taken a couple of courses and I had read some books. And I always knew when I was a kid, there's just more to life. There's more to being than just, hey, wake up every day and do this X, Y, and Z. So when I was in the film industry and I showed up at an audition, and now mind you, I went to acting class religiously. I had the same acting coach for 14 years when I was working consistently. And I knew what I was doing. Like I had everything so locked in and dialed in. And it was like I was on that path and audition, audition, audition. Like, here's where you go. You do this, boom, 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 boom. Right. And there was one day when I showed up to an audition and I couldn't remember my lines. I couldn't remember where to stand. I couldn't remember blocking. Like everything that could go wrong in one audition went wrong. Like everything. And from that moment on, it was like, I'm done. Like I'm just done. I don't know where the next thing is, but it's not this. Like it can't be this. I'm just done. And when I walked out of that audition, I called my agent and said, don't send me out anymore. Don't send me out again. And I literally just walked away. You know, it was the middle of one of the highest auditioning seasons called pilot season, where everybody's going to go get a pilot and get a television series. And then they're going to be famous and they're going to be rich and they're going to be all of the things that the stigma around what Hollywood, people think Hollywood is. And I went, I'm done. My system could not step into another audition again at that time. Just couldn't. I could now, but I couldn't then. That was 2004.
Now that you've had that time to look back and making the transition and being where you are successfully right now, what do you think the trigger for that was?
You know, I'm not really sure what the trigger was. I think it was just for who I am and for what I'm here to do on the planet to affect change. Subtlety doesn't really work with my system, apparently. It had to be big. It had to be dramatic. It had to be like devastating for me to make the move out of the film industry. Because I came into the film industry, let me back up. I came into the film industry very specifically, not just to be an actor. I wanted to influence people in a way that made their lives better. And who has that kind of power to actually have people listen to their voice? And I was like, well, you know, actors, people in the film industry, in the music industry, they can really affect change. Athletes, you know, they can really affect change on a bigger scale. You know, I wasn't like, oh, let me go into my community and talk to onesies, twosies, fives, tens. I was like, how can I reach the most amount of people the fastest? And after that was 20 years that I was, when I walked away, I was like, well, this didn't exactly go as planned, you know, based on the roles that I was getting. I wasn't a celebrity. I was working consistently and I was making a living and I was doing really well. And I was afforded a certain level of relaxation in my lifestyle because I didn't have to go to a 9-to-5 corporate job every day. I didn't have to answer to anyone in, you know, in my world. It was me going, okay, I'm going to get my pictures together. I'm going to get my resume together. I'm going to do everything I can to supply the tools to my agent to get me out there on auditions. And I'm going to go to acting class. I'm going to be there every, you know, twice a week. And I'm going to be honing my craft and working on my skills in order to be ready when I walk in that door of an audition. Right. And one of the best advices I ever got was I auditioned for a series with Aaron Spelling. And when I was in the room with him, he asked, you know, do you have any questions? And so I said, yeah, what are you looking for? And his answer was, I always look for someone who walks in the door as if they already have the job so that I know that when they show up on set, they're going to perform so that they're not wasting my money.
That was really well said.
I was like, oh my God, you know? So I approached every single audition as if this is me on set shooting, and how can I be the most prepared? And that's how my acting coach worked with us. He was like, you need to be completely 100% hands down prepared for anything when you walk in the door, as if you're already there working with whoever you're auditioning for. Doesn't matter if it was a commercial or a television series, a movie, it doesn't matter. You be prepared. And I went, that was the best advice I had ever gotten from a producer, an executive producer, a creator of shows, and it stuck with me. So I was always prepared, no matter what, when I walked in that door, even if it was one line. And I got jobs that were one line because nobody else, and the producers said, we hired you because you were literally the only actress that could deliver one line. Everybody else fumbled over one line because they just thought it wasn't relevant. But the line was pivotal in the scene to move the action forward. So I approached it as it's not one line. It's like, it's a pivotal moment, right? It's like, this is a pivotal moment. And they said, you were the only one that delivered it the way in which it was meant to be delivered. So that went back to that whole act as if you've already got the job. You're on, you know, on,
all right,
on
this
set.
is the part where I go off script. How did that impact your approach to what you do now? Because I'd imagine it's literally what you try to teach people now.
In one regards, yes. And in another regards, like having an acting job and your life as a whole can be radically different, right? Because there are so many personal steps that lead up to, like for transition, as an example, if someone's transitioning from something, it may not just be one thing. It could be accumulation of a bunch of different factors all piled up on the plate, right? So as an actor, you're separating your real life and you're separating, you know, it's like what's happening in the moment for the character. Great. So I take that as I'm coaching someone and go, what's happening in the moment for you? Okay, these are the things that you are currently experiencing, and this is what you want to be experiencing. So what needs to fall away in order for you to experience that? And because we're human, because we have emotions, because we have, you know, we have that humanness about us. We all have a blueprint that we're operating by. You know, we have some internal, subconscious programming of whether it was from our parents or our grandparents or our primary, structure when we're growing up. It's like we form those opinions, like this is how life works. And until you discover, okay, this is how life works, does that work for me? And if this particular how life works story doesn't work for me, how do I adjust that so that I find what does work for me? And being human, that's just a lot of trial and error, right? It's like you can probably experience it with this, doing what you do, right? Hey, Wes, I'm going to record, and then suddenly something doesn't record properly. It's like, okay, how am I going to adjust through this and make it work so that I can use everything that I just recorded?
I have no confidence that my own recording is going to come out good at the end of this with everything that I've been dealing with. But that happened the last couple of episodes, and you know what? I just pivoted. I figured out how to make it work anyway. So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Is it a new platform? Is it this? What is it that needs to occur in order for, the process?
The power of editing is great, especially for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing like me. So
it's so powerful. It's like those impact moments. I mean, and that's an editor's job. is to make the story impactful.
Yeah.
Right? It's to push on the emotional, buttons.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of emotional, I want to talk about something that might be a little, I don't want to say controversial, but a little bit of a hot topic. Let's talk about, why do both worlds, Hollywood versus corporate, why do they both claim that they value people, but they're burning people out?
Bottom line, money. It's the end result. They're only looking at the end result. And in the corporate world, in Hollywood, no matter what it is, I mean, it does take a special type of person to be conscious. And I've run across those people in both worlds, the conscious CEOs, the conscious producers, those who actually do take care of their crew. They actually do take care of their teams. They want the best for their teams. However, and this is just my experience, there are a lot that don't care, because when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, all are looking at is numbers. What are the numbers? And if our numbers aren't where we want them to be in our projected blueprint, our outcome, what do we need to do to get them there? Is somebody on the team a cog in the wheel? Is this department over here? And it's the same, right? Because Hollywood's broken down into teams. It's like you've got your corporate body at the studios. They're going to greenlight projects, and they're going to go through like this project's greenlight. However, they're going to put stipulations on that green light of like, it has to include X, Y, Z. And then you have to find a director that's going to be in compliance with X, Y, Z. And then when the director's in compliance, and then they're going through auditions to find the actors to play X, Y, Z. And if there's an actor whose morals are misaligned with certain things, like I was just actually reading something that Matthew McConaughey had put out about, they had offered him a certain amount, like millions of dollars for this role. I think he's like, it may have been $8 million that he was offered to do this role, and he turned it down. That's a lot of money. Not a lot of people have the fortitude to turn down $8 million, right? To be able to say, you know what? It's misaligned with who I am.
I read that in his book, Greenlight. And if you haven't read it, it's a great book for anybody out there. It's a great, inspiring book. You should really read it. And he talks about exactly that, where they offered him money to continue the rom-coms. And he just wasn't aligned with what he wanted. And he said, I'm not going to do that. And what was the end result? One of the most profound actors that we have, obviously, out there. And he's such a great personality, and his book is very inspiring. Okay, I have to come clean. It was an audiobook. I listened to it.
Audiobook, visual book, it doesn't matter. If you listen to it, it's like we all have a way that we learn and we absorb information. So reading, the actual physicality of reading may not be as effective for you as an audio. You might be an auditory learner, so you might retain more information that way. Sometimes I read things and I don't remember what I've read.
Yeah.
If I hear it, I go, oh, okay. It's like my daughter always says that to me. Like I'll say like, this is what I just discovered. And she goes, Mom, I told you that like a year ago. Like, listen to me. Hello. And I'm like, but it was the way in which it comes to me in the moment, like, oh, I'm ready to hear it now. I'm like, honey, I wasn't ready to hear it then. It's okay.
Well,
but thank you.
This is a really good transition to my next question, and that is reinvention on command, or realistically, why people fight change? Why do we resist change? What do you think?
It's a survival mechanism, because when change is, in my experience, because I teach a lot about this, and there's one particular course that I taught for over 10 years, a lot. And this was always a thing. It's like, hey, you're going to need to make some changes and decommit from some things. But the resistance to change is primal. It's simple. It's DNA. It's primal. It's our reptilian brains are not structured for change. When we find something that makes our system feel safe, that's what we tend to want to stick with, because our nervous system goes, ooh, it's good. Until the nervous system goes, oh, okay, I'm good, I'm done, let's go, let's move, and it's okay. But when people are comfortable, their comfort zone becomes the container for that safety. And when you learn to, like, I spent days with people teaching them, you can perform outside your comfort zone. And then what happens is the primal brain goes, oh, see, that was no big deal. When before it was this big traumatic thing that was happening, right? As opposed to like, oh, it's simply an obstacle. How am I going to approach the obstacle? But most people aren't trained like that because society doesn't train people that way. Society trains you to conform, to be in the system, to be in the box. Don't go out of the box. It's not safe out of the box. And so from a DNA perspective, and granted, I'm not a doctor, I don't see, but I've studied a lot about how psychologically DNA actually works. Because as a female in an industry, in both industries, the personal development industry, I was always working with my core group of people that I was working with were men. Always. It was like me and the guys. So there was always this thing that I had to just get over in order to even just stand on the platform with them. And a lot of that is like the fear of failing, the fear of this, the fear of that, whatever, right? So that primal instinct has to be overridden, because that little voice will say, oh, no. Stay there. It's safe. Don't do that. It's not safe. Oh my gosh. But as an athlete and having a fair bit of training to my background before I even went into those, but it was possible for me to override it a lot, because as an athlete in the game, there had to be a certain level of, you know what? I'm going to do my job no matter what. So I would just go into do your job, get your job done. And if your job is to stand up here on stage and be scrutinized by 350 people because what's going to come out of your mouth, you're the messenger. Override any feelings of like, oh, are they going to like me or that? I'm not here for you to like me. I'm here to deliver the information and the tools that you paid for to be in this room. Right? And I'm going to give you all the opportunities to prove to yourself that when those voices come up, you can still perform and function despite what those little voices inside your head are saying, so that you can actually affect change in your own life and have the success you say you want.
Have you dealt with loss of identity, self-doubt, public judgment, ego hits?
yeah.
Have you dealt with that? And I'd imagine, I mean, I feel like I know the answer. I feel like you learn how to overcome it, because I would imagine that a lot of the people that you coach in your field are probably running into a lot of that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. I mean, there's no one more scrutinized than actors. Like, I had to stop reading. Like, if there ended up a clip on YouTube or whatever of anything that I was in, didn't matter what it was, I had to stop reading the comments, because the amount of scathing comments that would be on those You know, I don't like her. She's not pretty. She's got a big ass. You know, things I'm like, oh my God, you know, and this was when I was in the prime shape of my life. And I'm like, what? You know, I had to stop looking at that. And God bless my acting coach. I mean, you rest in power there, Rick Walters, because, you know, for 14 years, he was just like, you just stay focused on you. That's it. You cannot let what other people think about you stop you, because it's a reflection of their thinking,
Yep.
not your thinking.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
The four. Oh,
The four agreements. And that's primarily what I was teaching in, you know, the warrior course that I taught. The four agreements was a huge part of that. It's like, hey, someone else's opinion of you is their opinion. It's not your opinion, but because we all want to be liked, we all want to be approved of, we're human. That's natural. However, are you going to let it stop you?
for those of who are wondering why I'm laughing so stupidly, is because Marjean and I talked about the four agreements when we met. She talked about how she loves the four agreements as well. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the four agreements literally changed my life a little bit over 10, 15 years ago,
Right.
whenever I first read it.
It's,
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
I mean, it's really everything that's happening in your life, and I may not have agreed with certain parts of the book that the author was talking about, but the concept of the four agreements, especially that part, if somebody, you know, I often talk about how I was raised by two narcissists. Hi, Mom, and basically, I was raised by a narcissistic behaviors in my household very deeply. And where I come from, we don't believe in psychology or therapy or bettering yourself on an intellectual level or anything like that. In the old-fashioned term of like mental health, a lot of people think that it's like, oh, you're crazy, or like, oh, you need help. I look at therapy or self-improvement, it's kind of like going to the gym. Like, how do I get better at something? Whether it's better at parenting, better at talking to my parents, talking to my family, talking to my friends, talking to people at work.
Yeah.
So it's getting better. That's how I look at it. And the four agreements, my gosh, I mean, I try to take little things out of it. I mean, some of the stuff that you said specifically about when somebody's upset with you or they doubt you or they say something bad to you, it's a reflection of something that's going on in their lives. I tell that to my girls.
Yeah.
We're talking about how you were scathed constantly in the industry because, of course, you're a woman. And, you know, I just want to say one thing to that. Everybody apparently is big, brave, and bold behind a keyboard, but that's just cowardly. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just an industry that, you know, first and foremost, people look at looks as opposed to looking at talent. Right? So it's like, yes, there is I mean, my God, I mean, the amount of roles that I've lost because you're too pretty for this role is like, I can't even count how many. Because, and talk about, okay, now because I'm too good looking, I have a complex because you're too pretty. I could walk into an audition with not one stitch of makeup on, give a great audition, emotional, impactful. You're too pretty. What? You know, I've been an athlete my whole life and auditioned for athletes. And not only was I an athlete, I was a champion athlete in high school. I got scholarship to go to school for volleyball. I've always done sports. I trained martial arts for 10 years. I did stunts for 10 years. And this is what I look like. This is who I am, right? And still, oh, you're too pretty. I'm like, you're too pretty to play an athlete? I am an athlete. And if you look at the athletes today that have all of the endorsements, they're drop dead gorgeous. And they're making millions as athletes and being pretty. But back then it was like, oh, you're too pretty to be an athlete. I'm like, because athletes are ugly? By your standards? Like, what does that even mean? That is crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What does that have to do with anything? Can I play basketball? Yep. Can I play volleyball? Yep. Can I run track? Yep. If you ask me to do most anything except tennis. Tennis. I was like, ooh, forehand.
All right. Let's talk about faking
Forehand.
confidence versus building it. Hollywood, a lot of people would say, is the world's capital of pretending. I think coming from a corporate background, I would say corporate is a very close second to that. Let's talk about how do you project power while still being human inside. I was told this when I was younger. I went to interview somewhere and someone said, okay, I like your enthusiasm. I like your energy. I like your confidence. When you interview with the lead manager or whoever else, the next round of interview, there's a fine line between confident and cocky, and you kind of tote that line. So be careful. Of course, I was in my 20s. So I think a lot of us in our 20s, we're invincible, right? We can stop a car just barehanded, right? So can we talk about that a little bit? How do you segregate or make a differentiation between confidence and cockiness? There's a difference, and there's a way to do it in a way that shows that this is the right person versus somebody saying to you, I don't know, I don't believe you. I feel like you're just putting on an act.
And that right there is key. What you just said. I don't believe you. I think you're just putting on an act. And that comes down to instinct. Because someone can be confident, but the minute that cockiness or arrogance comes in, the energy completely shifts. And I don't care if people believe in energy or not. They can always differentiate because something inside of them will go, I don't know. There's something about them, and they might not be able to pinpoint it in the moment as arrogance or cockiness, but there's that little bit of doubt about, I don't know. And people can sense authenticity from like 30 feet away. Like, because when the heart's authentic, they might not be able to name it or call it because not everybody's tuned into that kind of sensory exercise within but they feel it even if they can't label it.
So where do you think that comes from? We're talking about real confidence, authentic, genuine confidence. Where do you think that comes from?
I think that comes from an internal knowingness. Like, I know. I just know. As an example, just using my acting career. If I had taken my audition, say I have a big audition for a guest starring role, and it's a lot of dialogue, and there's a lot of nuances to it. When I took it into class to work it in class with my coach's guidance, I had a much different level of confidence walking in there because I knew it. I had rehearsed it. It was there. It was ready to go. Whereas if I just got called, the producers want to see you in 2 hours, over at Warner Brothers, and here are the sides. It's like, oh man, I do not have as much confidence because I haven't had as much time with the material, right? And people build up a certain internal knowingness for what their gifts are, what their strengths are, right? What their superpowers might be. People can feel that as opposed to like, ooh, I haven't done this before, so I'm a little bit hesitant. So then one of two things are going to happen. They're going to hold back because they don't have the confidence within themselves to fully step into whatever it is they're doing or presenting. Or if they have the confidence in certain skills related to the thing they're doing, they're going to rely on those skills opposed to the outward, what might be outwardly expected.
It doesn't. It
You know?
makes me think of another question that, again, we're going off script, by the way. So I feel like certain people have a radar that can detect BS or genuine authenticity. And I feel like some people's radar
Yes.
to detect genuine and authentic vibes higher than others. The reason I say that is because when we first met, you were doing a mini coaching session and you were asking people questions. And then for whatever reason, you just pointed at me. I didn't even raise my hand. So I guess in that sense, and I feel like I'm kind of leading the witness here, what made you point at me?
From years of being in front of audiences, I just read certain language in the body, in the field. And there's certain people who know things that don't necessarily raise their hand to go, oh, I'm going to share this because I know this, from that place of cockiness or arrogance. And when I'm in that space and I'm tuned into the energy of the room, like those people that are cocky and they've always got their hand up and they always want to share because they have something to prove. And it's like those people I would purposely not call on until like maybe the end of the
That's the
5
BS
minutes.
meter in you
And be
kicking
like,
in, right?
Hey, yes. I'm like, okay, now it's your turn to share. Because usually those people will try to hijack the entire course of, and there's 350 other people here that deserve attention. And if I break the flow of the energy for you right now, then it takes everybody else out of the game. So when I'm in that space, I'm just basically reading the energy of the room and going, you know what? Who else has something to share, but isn't necessarily going to raise their hand? Because they don't need to raise their hand. They don't need to broadcast it. They don't need to be the center of attention. And that is most likely why I landed on you, right? Because it's like, there's a deeper wisdom behind your silence. Silence speaks really loudly.
I agree. Absolutely.
most of the
I
time.
agree. And I think what I was leading into, and you already know this, is that if there's a little voice in the back of your head
Yes.
that's telling you should do something, it may not be the loudest voice that you have in your head, but there's a reason that it's
Right.
there. And you should probably follow it. And I talk about that because it's part of what you try to teach about making those changes in their lives, about turning them into more than what they put out there already. Am I saying that correctly? Can you please, you put it so much better eloquently.
Oh, yes. No, that's exactly right. Because this is the way in which my martial arts instructor, puts it. He's also he's a deeply in a deep metaphysical, like religious, culture. And he was like, at first they come to you with a whisper. Like, hey, do this. And you're like, whatever. Yeah. And then the voice gets just a little bit louder. He goes, hey, go this way. Might want to go this way. You're like, yeah, whatever. And the ego overrides and goes, oh, I'm going to do my own thing. And then it gets a little louder and it's like, hey, knock, knock, knock. I think you should go this way. And the ego still goes, you know what? Sit down, be quiet. I'm not listening to you. And then finally the 2x4 hits you in the head and is like, boom. And then you're like, ow, that hurt. Yeah. Are you going to listen now? Because I want you to go this way. And when I transitioned from the film industry into personal development, that was it. Like all the 2x4s hit at the same time. It was like, conk, 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 boom. And then I was like, okay, I'm going this way because clearly I don't want to get hit by that again. Right? It wasn't a matter of, oh, and by the way, if you just work a little harder, this won't happen again. Nope. Because I had been doing all of those things. Right? And from my little experience of being like, I've been an actress longer than I was ever a stunt woman. But those 10 years of being in the stunt industry and working with some of the top stunt people in the film industry and the legends that are now legends in the stunt world, it's like that is a job based on skill and instinct. Because the moment you second guess a major stunt or something like, if you have any doubts, it's like you got to shut it down. Because that's the potential for someone to get hurt. You know, I've had friends die in that second guessed their own intuition on something and they didn't come back from it. So for me, it's like that doubt can be a lifesaver. But the message, you want to make sure that like tune in and say, hey, is this going to be, you know, the best route? Because we're all driven, you know, unless you're actively seeking like to override the ego, which is the I gotta stay safe. I'm gonna do this. It's safe. The auditions were safe. Acting was safe. I worked enough. I had a lot of residuals. I was making money. I always paid my bills. I always had extra money. Blah 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 blah. Safe, 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 safe. And then when the 2x4s hit, I was like, "Ooh, this isn't really the safe I thought it was anymore." Come on.
Yeah.
Now what? Pivot over here.
And that's where you come in, and that's where somebody like me comes in, right?
And those handheld football games. And just, I mean, crazy.
Tapes.
Cassette tapes.
Yeah.
You know, everybody got their trusty, is cassette tape.
The pencil?
Called
the pencil.
Number 2 pencil. The pencil. I mean, kids these days will never understand what it's like to have to like fast forward through your...
Or recording from the radio. You know, when you make your own mixtape, recording from the radio.
From the radio. I'm waiting. Yes, I'm waiting for the song to come on. It's like, is it going to come on? Is it going to come on? No, it just...
Everybody was a DJ.
Hour. Everyone had mixtapes. We all did it. That was
man. Welcome back to HBS. We're going down memory lane over here. I love this. Oh, my gosh.